This week on Kingdom Speak, we talk more about fame and making a name for yourself. Welcome back to another episode of Kingdom Speak with Pastor Daniel McKillop. Bring back the whistle, they said. So I don't think anybody wants to be famous anymore. After last week.
Yeah, that kind of went viral. Yeah.
This says, listen to this. Listen to this. Must listen every week. Thank you. Kingdom Speak is a must listen for my wife and I each week. The godly conversation and biblical insights are always so encouraging and challenging. And how about that producer? No, that's a joke. Keep it up.
Never even got me.
We appreciate it very much. I would like to start a grassroots movement to do a live episode from Deeper Conference 2024.
Well, come on, somebody.
Well, also, I would love to hear an episode for worship leaders, singers, musicians, and the impact music has and can have on a church service.
Boy, that would be good.
My apologies if you have already had one. I'm still catching up from earlier episodes. That's not something we've really talked. We've talked about music a bit, but that's a good.
That's a good suggestion.
That's coming in from Ryan Barfield. That's pretty hard to mess up.
Wow.
Very simple. Ryan Barfield flows off the tongue very nicely. From Apple Podcast, US of A, and I would dare say it's Tomball, Texas. So we'll say amen.
Amen.
Amen. How about it? So, man, we're really famous after last week. We're jumping up the charts. I've been watching our analytics, and I'm feeling pretty good about it.
It feels good to be here.
You know what? I demand a little respect right now. Like, this is something this is quite significant.
You know what? You are an impressive co-host. Impressive.
Yes, and when you say the name Kingdom Speak, people perk up.
Well, speaking of that, I'm going to have a drink of coffee.
Oh, man. Shout out to Elder David Forrest, who sent me some goodness in the mail.
Verve.
Let's make him famous. How about that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Elder David Forrest.
Elder.
Yeah, sure.
I say that with all respect, of course. All right. So part 2. You know it's good when there's a part 2.
Yeah. My nose is still a little broke, though, because it sounds like Kingdom Speak is not going to be able to pass through the world with where you're heading with this. And
no, we'll still do it.
And that truly messes up with where I really thought we were headed. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, if we're here to talk about how messed up you are, then we can talk about that.
There'll be a part 17.
Yeah. How long is this
Well, then
series
there's that. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us today.
Yes. Like and subscribe. Hit the like button. Hit the bell.
Well, you haven't said that in a while.
Yeah. Listen, we're famous now. I don't need to do that.
So did that make sense last week?
It did. I was thinking as you were talking about our episode with Pastor Nathan Cox, small church mentality.
Yes.
And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we did mega church mentality?
Oh.
Wouldn't that be cool? There's potential to take that content and kind of flip it a little and just mega church mentality. That would be.
Yeah, I think it's important to underscore here for those that listened last week. Clearly, we're not against being as good as you can be, and
that's right,
being as excellent as you can be, and really, for that matter, being as successful as you can be.
And if you're in a big church, good for you. Like,
and we're building a bigger one.
Yeah, don't leave and go to a small one just because the Kingdom Speak said you shouldn't be in a big church. That's not what we said. Yeah.
That being said, you know, when we were when we were chatting here before we hit the record button, this has a lot to do, even with young ministers and the formation of relationships. So let me just set this up. Mm-hmm. And when we were talking about fame last week, mm-hmm. it's just a reality that not everybody can be famous. Everybody can be significant, but not everybody will be famous.
Well, you're crushing people's dreams right now. You need to let that settle.
Yeah.
So it's quite possible that you listening to us right now, or me sitting at this table, I might not be famous.
Right.
Whew. But even the term famous is subjective, right? I don't know if you've ever been around someone who was, semi-important. Maybe they have a really good job, or they, whatever. Mm-hmm. But then you get in a different circle, and they're just sort of one of the circle. And, so if you're famous in your state or in your province, like, are you known across the country? And then is it international?
Yeah. And
is it a current one-hit wonder if you're a musician? Mm-hmm. Or will people pattern themselves after you forever? Mm-hmm. Like, it's all, to me, it all feels very fleeting.
Well, and so we can talk about it let's talk about it from the Harry and Meghan mm-hmm. debacle. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they don't want to be famous.
They don't,
but yet they won't shy away from any camera or anybody who wants to interview them, or right. So the very thing that they claim mm-hmm. to have mm-hmm. ran away from in their move from Britain is what they're fawning over.
That's exactly right.
In the Hollywood TV industry. So they're wanting to be on Oprah's show.
Yeah. Again, I think they want to be famous in the North American sphere.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's a different level of fame.
Well, and he knows he's tapped out. I mean, what's the... Mm-hmm. There's no more rungs on his ladder. Mm-hmm. So let me go over here where maybe I can aspire
mm-hmm. I read a book
to the heights of fame that I couldn't tap into in Britain.
I read a book about... it was dealing with musicians and recording, and it was just a book about that sort of topic. And they told a story there about a singer in the U.S. who in his mind was famous, and he was. He's if I said his name, you would know who he is. Well, maybe not if you're a Christian, but he's known.
Oh, really?
He's known amongst some people. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. Yes, and
give him his megaphone.
You know him well.
His producer came into him and said, "Hey, we want to bring this guy into the studio and record with you." And he didn't know who he was. So in his mind, he wasn't famous. And they said he is from South America.
Okay.
And he's a really good singer. We want to bring him and put him on your album.
Okay.
So he says he drove to the airport to pick him up. And he said, what flight are you coming in on? And there was a reply, and the guy said,
I have my own plane.
My plane will be there in an hour. And I'll meet you. Right? So, man, there's all of this kind of stuff.
Right.
Wherever you go.
Right.
Athletes. So you're a college star. Doesn't mean you're a pro star, right?
Right. And so what you're underscoring here is fame can be geographical. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fame for sure is fleeting. Mm-hmm. You see this all the time, okay? And I don't have a TV. I don't watch Hollywood. I don't. Mm-hmm. So, but it will come up on my Fox News app. So and so died.
Are they still a thing?
82 years old. Mm-hmm. Fox News.
Yeah. Pretty much everyone's leaving, aren't they?
Yeah.
Everybody's
tuckered. Everybody's tuckered out. Yeah, you're looking for a button to push. He's looking for a button to push.
So if Jaren's listening, we need the dad joke button.
Yes.
Like a groan, like, oh.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
No, it wasn't.
Well, okay.
I'm just going to be honest with you. We need to have a private conversation right now. That was not a good joke.
Nobody's listening. We'll have to cut that out.
What is it?
Hey, everyone, it's Friday. Welcome to Kingdom Speak.
Nobody will know.
Yeah.
Yes, they're going to know.
Yeah.
They're never going to know.
Yeah, they're going to know.
So you
see it come up on
do.
there.
You do.
All the time. 82-year-old superstar, dies. And I'm like, I didn't even know that this was a superstar, let alone that he was alive.
Nope. You flick through the article and then you read the paragraph where they say
what they did.
Yeah.
And so they'll go back to, he was on some sitcom in 1969.
Oh, yeah. Really big deal.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
But it really isn't on my radar. And it really isn't on a lot of people's radar because fame is so fleeting. Okay? So where I've personally witnessed this is, and I think this is even at your own level, whether it's the book you're talking about reading, whether it's people that have influenced you, nobody's timeless.
No.
Nobody lasts forever.
That's the harsh reality.
Pastor Raymond Woodward, on his episode on church transition, there are no pastors that are not in transition. Every pastor is a pastor that is in transition. So nobody's timeless. Nobody lasts forever. You may be popular for a while. Chances are, we mentioned this last week, you may be famous at 30, may be famous at 40, highly unlikely that you're still as famous at 60.
Yep.
Okay. Sadly, some of the people that have their fame has kind of been burnt into the human timeline are people that tragically their life was cut short. The Elvis Presleys.
Well, yeah, exactly right.
Right.
Sometimes, are you sure you want to be famous?
Yeah. Right. So as a young man, as a young minister, there were voices that left indelible impressions on me, shaped my ministry. Okay? Voices that I would, in my own secret time of reflection, go, man, would I love to be able to have a conversation with this particular individual, that particular individual.
Yep.
Who were they? They were men that in their own right, from my perspective, were successful, were anointed, were leaders. And so I can remember having those moments where, I got to meet them. And then in special occasions, I got to ask them questions.
Yeah.
And I tried to live my life in a mode where if I had 5 minutes with this guy, this is what I would ask him. Okay? So recently, Kingdom Speak has had the privilege of recording, and there's going to be more of this coming out later, but
You're not going to tell them everything, are you?
I'm
Okay. Like, we need to
I'm
talk
not gonna
about
tell-
this before.
They're going to know. They're not going to know.
We probably vote you down.
Yeah, no one's going to tell them. Here, he's fixing.
Change the sound of my voice. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah. I was going to disguise you, and then it could be like a rumor that somebody else heard.
Yes,
You know.
yes.
They would never know.
Nobody's going to know. So I can remember recently being at a conference and someone came up to me and they were very enthusiastic about the podcast. And they were like, man, Brother McGill, thank you. And, da. And those conversations are simultaneously awkward and appreciated. I mean, you
Very weird. I just got to say, it's weird. It's weird to. I met. It's at my niece's graduation, and I met Josiah from Nova Scotia. You know exactly who he is, Josiah from Nova Scotia. If I said his name, and
that would be Pastor Josiah.
that's right.
Yes.
That's right. And he
I
says,
actually met him at CCC.
Well, come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple of weeks ago.
So, but you're more famous than me. Then he walks up and says, "Hey, I know who you are." It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 Weird.
So I'm having this conversation, and it's a young man. Now I am young, but he's younger.
I disagree with that statement. I'm going to call it out.
Well, you
right
don't
now.
even know who I'm talking about. How do you
No.
know that he's not younger than
All
me?
right, time for another private conversation here.
He is younger than me.
Most people. No, let's move on. I didn't say that. I mean, no,
Most people are.
I didn't. No, I didn't. Disguise your voice.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was telling him how honored we were to have different elders in this studio recording for hours on end.
Yeah.
Okay? We've shared a couple of them, but we haven't shared all of them.
That's right.
Keep listening. And so one of the names I mentioned was Bishop Floyd Odom. And I'm like, man, it has just been amazing. And he's looking at me with this perplexed look on his face. And he says, who is Bishop Floyd Odom?
And I want to say, you don't know who Floyd Odom is. Sorry. Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's how you feel in your head, right?
At that moment, you do.
And it's happened to you. Other people mention a name and you're like, I'm going to go Google this guy. Yeah.
Right. Because nobody has an impact on everybody forever.
That's a really good statement. You're right.
It's a transient, moving. And so as a young man, if you're not careful, you, especially in the ministry, well, how can I get a connection with XYZ minister who seems to be preaching the circuit, who has a church that hosts a great meeting? I want to connect with him. Why? Do you want to connect with him because you feel like he has something that he can impart to your ministry? Or do you want to connect with him because you want to be famous?
Oh boy, we're going there.
Are you wanting to connect with him because of his name? Are you wanting to connect with him for your name?
I think.
Whose name are we interested in here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason we're building this tower is so that we can make a name for ourselves.
Because if we don't, we're all going to be scattered.
We're going to be scattered.
It's going to be really bad. Yeah.
Okay? The whole Genesis 11 Tower of Babel, City of Babel narrative starts with they were one people of one language and one speech. Okay? So I want us to unpack this a bit more. Because clearly, according to the Word of God, one people, all speaking the same thing, all reciting the same speech, is a dangerous people.
You're right.
Okay?
Well, the Lord said so.
Absolutely, he did. So we've got to understand, and boy, this can be a thorny conversation. But in the apostolic ranks and in the Pentecostal ranks, we all don't have to be in the same organization. And we all don't have to have the same last name. And we all don't have to be. It is okay that there's 12 tribes in Israel. It's one people, but it's 12 different tribes. And so God goes down and he disturbs it. Now, we're going to come back and talk about this more, but I want us to even have a look at this from a societal standpoint. So clearly we've pinned the tail on the donkey with religion, because if we're not careful, we think that the objective can become we're trying to get everybody in our ship.
One is best. Yeah.
The independents can do it just as much as the organized.
Oh, yeah. That's clearly a tribe.
Right?
Yes.
If you don't think that there's politics in the independent ranks, you have lost your ever-loving mind.
Organized independence.
Yeah. Okay? So why are we evangelizing each other? Why aren't we evangelizing the world? Because if we're not careful, we're all about building our tower higher than the other guy's tower.
Yes.
It's out towering the other guy. How many ministers did you sign up this this year? How many are you? How big was your youth meeting? Is your big meeting as big as my big meeting?
He's going there.
I don't think you realize we're recording right now.
No, we have clearly lost all of our listeners.
Is your
right.
podcast as powerful as mine? Does it reach as far as yours? Why are you wanting to start a podcast, actually? Are you just wanting to start one because
Yep.
there is a potential for you going viral, or are you really wanting to make a difference? You see how it just becomes on a granular level. It can be what is driving everything.
Oh, man. That's not even talking about things like social media.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And why they post certain posts.
In verse 7, in verse 5, what does it say in verse 5?
The Lord came down to see the city.
The Lord came down to see. Okay? What's it say in verse 7?
Let us go down, and there confound their language that they may not understand.
So this time, when he comes down, he's not coming down to inspect. He's coming down to thwart. He's coming down to undermine what this people are doing.
That's right.
Because he understands that if this people stay united and speak the same thing, they will accomplish, now get this, whatever they set their mind to.
Yeah, in verse 6, he said, behold, the people is one, they have one language, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. That's an unprecedented level of power, right?
That is the danger, and that's what we said last week. There is no one group of people, no one church group, no one leader that can handle everybody being in one place and being the seat of power. That is heaven.
That's right.
That is not intended to be on earth, not in this dispensation. Nobody can handle that. That is why, let's talk about it from a very broad secular level. That is why the United Nations
Yeah.
is not a divine construct.
No. It's not divine, and it's really not effective either.
No, it's not.
It's not as effective. If you go back, and I actually read an article about this a few months ago, but if you go back and look at what was said about when they built the UN and what it was going to do, they're not hitting their goals.
No, they're not.
All of these worldwide groups, they eventually just splinter, and they don't do it.
Here's an interesting thing, though, because this is where we are on the timeline of prophecy. We're headed to a one world government.
Oh yeah, man, yes.
Babylon and the spirit of Babylon.
That's the push.
It's still the push.
Yeah.
It is impossible to have a United Nations approach to one world governance without people compromising virtues that are associated with their individual identity.
That's the truth. The bigger the tent is,
The more compromise.
the lower you level the bar.
Exactly. Exactly. And when you have a concentration of power in one place, and you have very few hands controlling it, you're in a dangerous world.
Yep.
You're in a very dangerous world.
Agree.
Because power corrupts. And you need to know that there's someone that can sit at the table that won't agree with you.
That's right.
To hold you in check. That is why we read it. I read a statement by Leslyn Lewis, who is a Canadian politician. Read it just yesterday. Her talking about Canada entering into an agreement with the WEF, I think, World Economic Forum. She's also raised alarm about the WHO, World Health Organization. Think
Worldwide. Yeah.
Think another pandemic on the scale that happened
I don't want to.
I don't either.
No.
But just think down that dark hole just for a second and put the steering wheel exclusively in the hands of the WHO.
Ugh.
Off the rails.
Like we went way off the rails now, but you know the beacons were those people in authority that went, no, we're not doing this.
That's right. There's naturally a balancing. The intent is with all of those smaller groups, you would hope, in a political world, that they balance, the voices balance each other out. And we come to a consensus instead of just this one giant.
And we got to understand, God was against this.
Yep.
God was against this. Because when you have people, again, tapping into last week, that they are the pinnacle of the tower and nobody is above them. And there's nobody, no being that exists within their reality that they offer worship and glory to. They become the recipient of it all. That's Luciferic and it's dangerous. It's vitally dangerous. And I want to read a quote to you. Virtually every call for unity is disingenuous. People who call for ideological unity do so on the presumption that it will be based on their values.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Everybody unify behind me.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I'm all for unity if it's behind me.
Yep.
And that was the drum that the builders of the city of Babel and the Tower of Babel was beating. Everybody come to Shinar. Everybody get in line. Everybody hit the slime pits. And everybody build this tower. And if we build it, or if everybody gets behind us, we will build it.
Oh, yeah.
And God saw that. And God recognized the danger in that. And said, we have to stop that. We have got to bring this thing down.
I don't know if there's any other place in the Bible where the Lord talks about a group of people and gives them that level of, I don't know if I want to call it an accolade or not, but it says nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Like they were at a level of
performance.
Yes, great. Thank you. They were performing at a level that very few other groups of humans have ever reached.
Okay, I think we're getting close.
All right, let's talk about it.
I think we're getting close. Technology in the hands of someone who has no regard for God and they are the pinnacle is very dangerous. It's a two-edged sword. It can be a powerful tool for that which is right, but it can be a deviant tool for someone who is wicked. Okay?
You're right.
One of the examples of this, and again, Prager talks about this, and he cites it that at the time of the writing of the book, The Rational Bible, that I'm quoting from, he said, we are already on the cusp of technology that will be able to clone humanity.
All right.
I mean, we know they've cloned sheep.
Yeah, genetic modification, all that kind of stuff. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That is a moral minefield.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. He had already written this before AI started blowing up like it's blown up in the last 6 months.
Yeah, I was going to say, what does he talk about AI?
So what about AI? Where does that go? When you hear guys like Elon Musk saying it will destroy humanity, talk to me. What do you think that is?
I can't wrap my head around it, honestly.
I can't either.
I can't wrap my head around it.
I've thought about that.
I've read a bit about this, and that there's two camps. There's the big proponents of it, and then there's the people who are fiercely against it, and there's the people in the middle who say, "Listen, it's here. So how are we going to deal with this?" And most of those people in that middle group all say the same thing, that you got to have a switch on it.
For sure. For sure.
Because because it's designed now with learning, and if it learns too much, then it will learn to
organically it learns.
That's right. And it will learn to outsmart you. And then at that point, you will think you're still controlling it, and the machine is playing you.
Well, and so that is what back before I was all tuckered out. He did have an interview with Tucker Carlson. So Elon Musk, in that conversation, Tucker asks him, what's the concern about AI? Because he is very concerned about it.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay?
he's been one of the guys big
And
time.
this is a guy that pushes...
It's kind of ironic,
He pushes envelopes. I mean, this is a guy that wants to live on Mars.
Well, then he's doing this Neuralink.
Yeah, and he's worried about AI. So that, in my ignorance, makes me worried about AI. Because if he's worried about it, I think I should be
You
at
don't
least
think you're
giving...
You don't think you're as smart as Elon Musk? Is
No, I
that
don't.
what you're saying?
No.
All right.
So I know I'm not as rich as Elon Musk either. I do know that.
You know, Elon, if you're listening, you could be a premium sponsor of King
Yes,
to
you
Speak.
could. You could.
You could just send us just whatever.
We would go exclusively on Twitter.
Hey,
we would.
we would.
We would abandon. we would abandon all platforms.
Spotify.
Oh yeah, the three people on Spotify would have to find us somewhere else.
This episode is brought to you by Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says regulation is needed.
Yes,
Okay?
that's right.
And he says that anything that you do that pushes the envelope needs regulation. The reason that you need regulation is because something goes wrong.
That's right. Yeah, that's even true in the physical world and humans. That's right. That's the point of it.
So Tesla builds cars, and there's, by his own admission, filing cabinets full of regulations.
Yes.
Putting a rocket into the stratosphere has all of these regulations. He said that the one conversation that he had with President Obama while he was still president, he did not talk to him about Tesla. He did not talk to him about SpaceX. He talked to him about regulation on AI. That's back
Yep.
8+ years ago.
Yep.
He says that by the time we know what needs to be regulated with AI, it will be too late.
That's right. If you react,
It's too late.
that's right, and that's what a lot of these other people that I've read about say.
Unlike the deal with the car, where when it goes down the road and swerves at a shadow, okay, you can fix it. It only affected that person. With AI, it's too late.
That's right.
And so when he really asked him, he being Tucker asked him, he said, the reason that it's so dangerous is for the first time in the history of humanity, there is something smarter than humanity that is in control.
Yeah.
That's right. And all those experts are all saying the same thing, that it will have the ability to outthink you, and you can't figure it out. And, if it's controlling military drones, I know we're in the weeds right now, but so let's say it takes control of a fighter plane or something. The humans and how we think about conventional weaponry, it will be thinking at a level above you because it knows what your playbook is.
Yeah,
Which is really weird. It's just weird to even talk about it.
Financial
It's weird, but I'm
institutions.
telling you, you got to put it back. Doing what now?
No, I'd be interested to see how AI would even work within financial
Markets,
institutions,
bankings.
all of that.
So
Loans.
I read another article about AI, and they were saying that you were dealing with AI right now more than you realize. So anything to do with customer service that is not on the phone, I think it's like 98% of it now is AI. So all of these big companies, if you're emailing or texting, those are not people. There's a name, like if you, I don't know, let's say they send me the wrong golf club and I go on to golfclubs.com and I punch in, hey, this is my order and I'm Derek and you sent me the wrong club. That's not a human. And they say, hey, Derek, I'm Sue, right? And blah, 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 blah. Sue is not a person. They don't tell you that, but it's not.
So this comes back to reinforce the point that I made a moment ago. We are dastardly close to our Tower of Babel moment.
Yeah.
So how
in history.
So you're saying that a human and robot
What morality do they have?
right? They have none.
They have no.
So who is at the top of the pinnacle and the tower of their pursuits? For sure not God, because they give no regard to God. And for sure, our society as a whole. We're not a Christian nation. So if God at the Tower of Babel had to come down and say, I got to stop this, or whatever they put their mind to, they will do.
Yep. But they imagine.
Yes. Think about this from just from this perspective alone. AI can defeat single-handedly the diversification of language. Just that alone.
That's right.
So now all of a sudden, I can chat real time with someone that speaks Mandarin and I speak English, and we can converse.
Yeah.
Where are we headed?
One language.
We're headed back. We're headed back to a worldwide system and unity that makes us unstoppable.
That's right.
And whatever we put our mind to do and imagine it, it can happen. And we don't have God at the top of that pinnacle. And the pursuit is we want to live forever. And fallen humanity wants to beat the death sentence of sin by coming up with a scientific solution to eternal life rather than a redemptive one. So we'll just continue to regenerate body parts and we will stay forever young. I mean, we're out there on the edge, but really are we? Okay? God had to stop this. Again, this is in the context of whatever they imagine. What do you think they're imagining to do right now? If we think that the spirit of Babylon is dead, the spirit of Babylon is very much alive right now. The spirit of pride is very alive right now. Again, we referenced it last week, but when you have world leaders coming out and saying we celebrate pride, we are headed towards destruction. And so this, could it be that if this got God to come out of heaven once, it could be what gets him to come back again? All right?
Yeah.
So they built the tower and they went as high as they could, thinking that they would muster and access equality with God. And I want you to notice that even at that moment, when man hits the highest pinnacle that he can, God still has to come down to see it.
Woo. Yep. Yeah, he did. He said, let's go down.
I still can't see it from up here.
You guys done building? All right.
I mean, they're at the height of whatever they had imagined that they thought they could get access to, the heavenly. And God still went, I can't even see that from up here. If I'm going to get a good look at this, I have to go down.
Yeah, because the verse 6 that we've been talking about, whatever they put their mind to do, I don't think God necessarily felt threatened at any point.
No.
He was just making an observation of what they were doing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a very interesting thing. So we are used to having discussions about let us make man. Remember the Brother Robinson?
Oh, yeah.
We have another example here where he says,
Yes.
let
That's right.
us go down.
That's right.
Okay?
Verse 7. Yep.
Dennis Prager, who is a Jew, who that is a monotheistic faith,
That's right.
they don't have discussions based around the triunity of the Godhead because they are a one God people. Hear, O Israel, the
One.
Lord our God is one.
One. That's
That
right.
is the Shema. That is what anchors the Jewish faith. So when they read let us go down, they don't read that as a potential of there being three gods
Right.
coalescing and coming down to inspect. This is not the march of the divinities. Okay? This is what Dennis Prager said. Let us go down. Here, I believe, I'm quoting, God is mocking the tower makers who had just said, come, let us build a city whose tower will be in the heavens, the top of whose tower will be in the heavens. In effect, this is what he said. In effect, they said, let us go up. And God said, let us go down.
That's good.
Let us go down. In a culture and in a world that is celebrating pride and ascending, we need a revival of humility. We need a revival of the reality that God is so high above it all
Oh, man.
that we could never aspire to be who he is. Humble yourself, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, and he will exalt you in due time. He can make Abraham's name great. Now listen, this people that started building the city and building the tower to make for themselves a name, guess what they did? They made themselves a name.
They did. That's right.
You know what that name was? Babel. It is an eternal symbol of confusion.
That's exactly right.
And that's the name that they made for themselves.
That's what they're famous for.
That is what they're famous for.
The pinnacle of pride is confusion.
Yes. Well said.
Yeah, that's
Well said.
what it is.
And that is what we're dealing with today.
Yeah,
Yeah, when you
The higher
say-
we go, the more confused they get.
absolutely.
Man, you don't get to pick your legacy, do you?
No.
Not in that world, I'm saying.
No, exactly. Now, God can leave you with one.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
God can leave you with one. Abram is known as Abraham, the father of the faithful. And in him and through him are all the nations of the world blessed. God did it.
But he didn't say, I'm going to make myself a name.
But that's not what Abraham was pursuing.
No, that's what we talked about last episode. That's Genesis 12. I'll make your name great. Yeah.
You just need to let God be the one who makes your name great. And the more important God becomes, the less important fame becomes. The more that you pursue submitting and fulfilling the will and purpose of God, the less important the fame of man. This is something that crosses my mind often. If someone comes and compliments our church, talks about a message preached or a podcast produced, or I find myself in a season of introspection saying, I wonder what God thinks about what I just did.
Wow.
Because it may be, to use this expression, famous with man, doesn't mean that it's famous with God. And ultimately, I want God to be happy with my efforts, with my endeavors, more than mankind. It's important. It's important. It's fundamentally important that God's happy with what I'm doing. And so, I don't know how far we got down there, but what's it say? Verse 7,
we
verse
got
8.
to verse 7 where he said, let us go down, confound the language that may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad.
So he did exactly what they were afraid would happen to them.
They did all that to be not scattered, and the Lord just scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city.
That means they quit
They stopped
building the city. Now listen, when he went down there, he didn't just go down there to knock down a tower, because towers can be rebuilt.
Right.
He went down there and attacked the very root of what the tower emerged from, which was a oneness and a unity of speech and ideology. And from that emerged. So really, again, tagging into last week, it's the city that's the problem, not the tower.
That's right. That's right.
It's the city. And they left off building the city. They quit building the city because the ideology was shaken to its core. They couldn't communicate it anymore. There was confusion. And where there is confusion, there's every evil work. It's there. And the future, it's over. It's over.
You know, when you flick down through that, you just said that, so I went back up and reread that quickly. It doesn't say that he destroyed the tower. All it says is that he confounded the language. So it almost seems like if you take care of the language in the city, the tower takes care of
itself. Yeah.
Quite something.
So really, if you're just starting out in your ministry, if you're a home missionary pastor, if you're a foreign missionary, and you're looking around and you're comparing yourself and the height of your tower with everybody else's tower.
Oh man.
Just zoom out from that. Be willing to go and swim upstream when all the U-Hauls are headed one direction. Be a man of faith and go countercultural. God forbid that we become a theological ethnicity that celebrates pride. But humble yourself, therefore, under the mighty hand of God. What would happen if we all just got a little more humble? I wonder what God could do if we really didn't care who got the credit and who got the accolades. And it really didn't matter to us if the revival was happening in this church or that church. We just want
doesn't matter what tribe.
People
That's
to
right.
be saved.
That's right. That's right.
We just want them to be born again. And we're happy to work in our field. And we're okay with the tribe that we're in. And it's okay that you're in that tribe. I'm not talking outside of apostolic doctrine, but I'm talking within the Israelite camp. There's tribes. There's tribes.
That's right.
Let's stop evangelizing from one tribe to another because we may have a tower that glitzes a little bit more than someone else's tower. There's always going to be a tribe bigger, maybe one that is a bit more proficient in areas that we are not. But let's just keep working in the corner of our field and not worry about the fame. Make ourselves of no reputation. And let's just let God get the glory. Leave him at the pinnacle of it all. Leave him at the top of the tower. And let's just see what we can do with the time we've got left.